Hey students, this tutorial is just for seniors and rising seniors. It is a how-to for requesting letters of recommendation. Before we even hop onto Naviance, there are a few things that you need to have already done. First, you need to choose the teachers you want to have write a letter of recommendation for you. You should always choose at least one teacher from a core academic area, like math, science, social studies, English, or foreign language. It is also a great idea to take into consideration what you plan to study in college. If you plan to be an engineer, it would be a great idea to get a letter from a math or science teacher. We recommend that you ask 2 teachers if they are willing to write a letter for you. Secondly, you should ask your teachers if they're willing to write you a letter of recommendation in person or through a personal email at the end of junior year or the beginning of senior year. Teachers may want certain information from you before writing you a letter of recommendation, and you also want to make sure that they are willing to write you a letter of recommendation and that it's going to be a good one. Now that you've asked them, you will need to figure out where you want to have these letters sent. Work on creating a list of schools that you plan to apply to. Most students will apply to 3 to 7 schools. If you are having trouble, you can always talk to the FPC or your school counselor to pick out those schools. Once you have that squared away, we can get started. First, you need to log into Naviance by going to naviance.com. To request a letter of recommendation, you will need to go to the Colleges tab and select the colleges I'm applying to in the drop-down menu. Before you make your request, you will need to create a list of schools you plan to apply to. Once in here, you can add colleges to your list. You will ignore the pink box at the top of the page for the time being and click the pink plus icon. Do not add every college you are thinking about at this point. This is what the colleges I'm thinking about section is for. This section is for the colleges you intend to apply to. This is very important because adding extra schools at this point could clog the system. As you add each college, you will need to choose the app type and how you plan to submit your application. It is okay if you are not sure about the app type because you can always update this later. When you choose an app type, it will notify your teachers of the college deadline you are trying to meet. It is very important to say how you plan to submit your application here. You can choose to complete either the school's application or the Common App to help you apply to multiple schools at once. If you plan to apply using the Coalition app, you will want to say that you are applying directly to the institution. If you do not tell us how you plan to apply or make the wrong selection here, your letters of recommendation and transcript cannot be sent to your colleges. Now that you have added your colleges, you can request your letters of recommendation. You will click the Colleges tab again and choose Apply to College and then select Letters of Recommendation from the drop-down menu. This is what the page will look like if you have not made any requests. To add a request, simply click Add Request on the right side. Select a teacher from the drop-down list. If you do not see your teacher there, contact the FPC to have the teacher added. Once you choose a teacher, you can choose to request that the teacher send it to all current and future colleges on your list, or you can choose to send it to specific colleges. If you choose specific colleges, you have more say over which teacher sends letters to which colleges. Here I chose some common schools students apply to as an example. There are 3 different numbers provided under the names of the schools: required, allowed, and requested. Required tells you how many letters you have to send to each of those schools. For this list, only one school requires a letter of recommendation, and they only require 1. The dashes under the other schools mean that there is no requirement. Next is allowed. Allowed means that the college will only accept so many letters. Here we can see that Penn State does not use letters of recommendation, so you would not want to request to have letters sent here. Requested is the number of letters you requested already for that school. An example of why you might want to make college-specific letter of recommendation requests would be if you applied to Temple's, let's say, engineering program, and they only accept 1 letter of recommendation. You may want to request that only your math teacher send the letter of recommendation to this college and save your English teacher letter of recommendation request for American University, who accepts up to 3 letters of recommendation. If you have no preference over whose letters go to which schools, feel free to select Send to all current and future colleges I add to my colleges I'm applying to list. You are then welcome to write a note to your teacher in this bottom space. This may be a nice section to write a standout memory from their class or the reason you have chosen this teacher to write you a letter of recommendation. If you have discussed it previously with the teacher, you can just simply write a thank you in this box as well. Then click Submit Request. You can repeat this for as many teachers as you need to. You can then check the status of your letters of recommendation by clicking on that same letters of recommendation link. The name of the recommender and the status of the request will appear here. If you have questions about the status of the letter of recommendation, it is important that you communicate that directly with your teachers. They will be the ones sending those letters. Please keep in mind that teachers cannot send letters of recommendation for students who use the Common App but did not match the Common App to Naviance. If you need to match your Common App to Naviance, you should look for the How to Match Your Common App to Naviance video. If you plan to request a letter of recommendation from your school counselor, you must also complete the Counselor Recommendation Information Survey under the About Me tab. To find this survey, click on the About Me tab and then click on the Counselor Recommendation Information link on the left side. This survey can be seen by you, your counselor, and the FPC coordinator, and it will help your counselors to write you a stellar letter of recommendation. Colleges will not have access to this survey at all. It is okay if your teachers send letters of recommendation before you complete your application. The colleges will match everything on their end. That is everything you need to know about letters of recommendation requests. If you have any further questions or run into any complications, please visit the FPC.